What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Ubu, the tech guru, and I'm coming straight at you. We have episode 4 of the Linux Tech and Gaming Podcast, hosted by myself along with 2 online buddies, the Atomic Ass and Osiris, also known as Osiris Tech or the PC Pimp. So, say hi, guys.
Hi, guys. No. This is Osiris the PC Pimp, at Osiris on Twitter, Osiris on YouTube, Osiris on the whole internet, and that's it. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
Yeah, and for those... Go ahead, Atomic.
I'm the Atomic Ass. I'm on YouTube and Twitter, and I do reviews of games that run on Linux.
All right, sweet. And for those of you that are curious about the various social media handles and links and whatnot, they should all be down below in the description. So just check down below in the description if you want to find out Osiris's YouTube or Osiris's Twitter or whatever, and same with Atomic. So I'm excited. We got episode 4 going on of our podcast here, and we do have some topics that we gathered together. I think we have about 5 topics, but later on in the show, we're always willing to take questions via Twitter or the YouTube comment section. Why don't each of us go ahead and tweet this out or retweet my tweet? I set up an auto tweet whenever you do a YouTube video, so it should have tweeted out the event already from myself.
It
looks like Osiris just retweeted it, so hopefully we can get some viewers in here. First topic that we have, Osiris actually found, so I'm going to go ahead and let him take us into our first topic.
So according to OMG Ubuntu, they did a survey asking, do you still dual boot with Windows for gaming? Which to me, that's pretty personal, because I think all of us dual boot or have another computer for gaming. And surprisingly to me, though, over 57% still dual boot for Windows gaming and still use Linux. The sample size looks like 6,590 people did this survey. So 3,700 people said that they still dual boot. 1,356 said that they used to dual boot, but not anymore, which is 20%. And 11% said, I don't play games, but I demand to vote in a poll on gaming. So 11% was useless voting. And 10% said, I never dual booted. I survived the Pie Chest and Tux Racer, and I commend those people because that was a hard time in Linux gaming. But yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised that 57% of people dual boot still, because if you're not a picky gamer, I think that there's enough games on Linux to play plenty, be satisfied, I guess you could say. You've got some big name titles, you've got plenty of indie titles, there's a wide assortment of genres, and for the most part, most of them do work. So yeah, that's kind of...
I'm trying something new. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I actually, while you were talking about the topic, I actually am sharing the actual link to the website on the stream, so the viewers can actually view the same article that we're discussing. I thought that might be a cool little feature that we can utilize within Google Hangouts.
Oh yeah,
and I just set the camera to always be showing the screen that I'm sharing, so so that our viewers can see kind of what we're getting our information from and talking about. But I would, I agree with you to a certain extent that for the most part, Linux, I would say now to date, probably does have enough titles to keep a normal gamer satisfied without having to boot into Windows, unless you were originally a Windows user and Windows gamer, because then you're already going to be probably playing the top AAA titles in Windows like Battlefield, possibly Call of Duty, GTA. Doesn't Grand Theft Auto make for PC, right?
Yeah.
And, and some of the other big AAA titles on Windows. So, I think that 53% of dual booters, are people that want to switch over to the Linux environment and are giving it a shot, but still keeping Windows around for those particular games that aren't yet ported over to Linux. I mean, I for one am one of those people. I have Windows 7 set up on my machine as a dual boot. I boot into to play Titanfall, and Borderlands 2. Unfortunately, still I have to play that through Windows because the Linux port isn't out yet. But those are really the only 2 games that I boot into Windows for. And right when I'm done playing or live streaming those games, I pretty much shut down or restart my rig and boot right back into Ubuntu. How is it with you guys?
Well, my opinion is, I don't even know. So here's the question: for the site omgubuntu.co.uk, what do you think their normal reader base is? Do you think it's the type of people you say that you're saying, or do you think it's the more dedicated readers? Because that would definitely determine what type of sample they got from this survey. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And from reading the comments, which I briefly just scrolled through, yeah, it seems like a lot of these guys, I don't know if they're dedicated Windows people or dedicated Linux people, but a lot of them, they have that one game that is definitely Windows on, like Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3. Like those games just are not ever gonna play in Linux. Not through Wine, not through anything. Not if you took the game disc and shoved it into a Linux. It's just not gonna happen.
Right.
I think that's mostly what the sample size is. People like us who have that one game that we need to play because they're gamers as much as they are Linux users.
Yeah, I would agree. What about you? What do you think, Atomic?
For me, when I first went to build my first desktop rig for gaming, I made the mistake of going with AMD. And then I found out the driver support is horrible. So that machine's pretty much been relegated to Windows only.
Well, and one of the other reasons you went with AMD is you were a bit miner for a while, aren't you? Or maybe you still are.
That wasn't my focus when I built the machine. I didn't get into coin mining until like 6 months later.
Okay. 6 months later, you realized, shit, I got these AMD cards. I might as well try to max them out to their fullest potential and do some mining, I suppose.
And turn my room into a sauna.
Yeah, right.
Jeez. I'm almost sweating right now.
I mean, how many AMD cards was your mining machine running at once?
If you count integrated graphics, 3.
Okay, nice.
Wow. Yeah, you had an AMD CPU also?
Yeah, I had a A8 6600K.
Okay, it's not the super hot ones though.
That's close enough.
All right, so stop sharing here.
Yeah, that just kind of surprised me, because part of it being a Linux user, in my opinion, is sort of ideological. You do it out of principle and out of ideology. You don't have to use Linux. I mean, most computers come with Windows, so most of us choose to use Linux. And I thought it was kind of surprising to see that high of a number of dual booters.
Right. I'm trying to figure out how do I make Google Plus or Google Hangouts switch back to the automatic whoever's talking gets the video feed. Yeah. I'm trying to figure that out because right now, since I did the screen share, and set it to show what I was sharing, now I don't know how to get it to go back to automatic. Whoever talks gets the webcam.
I think it already went back.
No, because I should be on screen right now, and it's actually my Cyrus is on the screen.
I see you. That's because I don't know why.
Oh, I'm not watching the stream. I'm watching the. Okay, never mind. Gotcha. I was watching the Google Hangout window.
Okay.
Wait, no, it's not working.
It's
Right now,
switching.
Mike's face is on there. I mean, Cyrus is on there.
Atomic just switched up when he talked.
Okay, well, all right. If you guys say it's working, cool. All right, so I just want to welcome Steve Waterman, dropped into the comments on the stream, as well as Russell Curzon. Thank you guys for coming to the 4th episode of our podcast. We do appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
Wow, and Russell actually says because he just started watching me today, he's actually downloading Ubuntu. Look at that. Sweet. Russell, hey, if you got any major questions, I'd be more than happy to try to help you out via Twitter. Just send me a tweet. If it's something easy, I can answer it over Twitter, but otherwise, if it's more involved, I'll probably point you to the Ubuntu forums, which is just ubuntuforums.org, and it's a really great community of users, very helpful. Most times people are there to basically help others learn Ubuntu, and that's what I think the really great aspect about Ubuntu and other Linux distributions in general is their communities. Each community provides such great support.
I'm a Mint guy, but yes, agreed. And then I think Atomic is a Arch guy, right?
Yeah.
Arch.
Are you running Arch, Atomic?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He thinks he's better than us.
That's kind of out of necessity. Devil's Canyon doesn't seem to like Ubuntu 14.04.
What? Really?
Yeah, I was getting a lot of seg faults on it. Like everything was seg faulting.
I might have just been Ubuntu.
No, Mint was doing it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thought.
I think maybe it's just something in the kernel and they're running an older kernel.
Oh, yeah. Ubuntu has a heavily modified kernel also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have a choice.
Not really.
Arch has a heck of a learning curve. I found that out.
It doesn't have that much if you're coming from another distribution, though. I was kind of surprised.
No, well, yeah, it's not a learning curve. Adjustment curve. We'll say that.
Yeah.
Because I found coming from PPAs to whatever it is that they do, a really not aggravating, weird. It threw me through a loop for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you guys tell me in the stream, Swoop, is the video switching to the person that's actually talking? Because I'm not seeing it happening. Osiris and Atomic say that it is, but I don't believe it is. So just let me know if you guys see, as people are communicating, is it switching to their video camera as they're speaking? Right now, I see Osiris's face on the stream, and he's talking while I'm actually talking. So, anyway.
What if I do this? What if I do this?
It's still on you. It was still on you.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
And the stream is obviously so many minutes behind us. So the window that I'm looking at is the Google Hangouts window. What are you trying to show us? A bullet or something?
I'm just seeing if it focuses.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't focus like it does in the other software, but yeah.
What caliber?
All right.
I live in Texas. We all have bullets. 40.
40 caliber?
Yep. Winchester.
All right. Okay. So moving on to the next topic we got here. Osiris did all the homework this week. Last week I went out and found all the topics. This week Osiris found a bunch. Atomic, I'm not sure. You maybe contributed. I put in some at the very last minute here. But so Osiris, go ahead with the next topic since you found it.
All right. So this one is yet another scandal scandal in Linux gaming. So the developer from Puppy Games, the guy who made Titan Attacks, Droid Assault, I guess Ultratron, I'm not familiar with that one, says that, and his Linux tweet, Linux gamers, to date we've made just $12,000 from Linux games in total for all time for all 4 of our games. This will not do. So he sounds kind of upset. He sounds like he's butthurt because he didn't make enough money.
I would say so. I mean, I don't know about butthurt, but whatever terminology you want to give it, he's definitely dissatisfied with, only making $12,000. But you did point out a few facts within the Google Doc here. You said that they only have 4 total games, and they have 3 employees.
Yep.
So, I'm not sure how much their overhead costs are, but $12,000 divided by 3 employees is what, $4,000 a piece?
Yes, but also you got to remember that still Linux is only approximately 1% of the gaming market. So I'm going to assume that if that's 1% of what they totally made, well, they should have expected that. I mean, what do you expect?
I think I read on the link that it's actually 2% of what they made.
Okay, 2%. I mean, that 98% came from Windows sales is the point. So if we assume that, that means that they made approximately $100,000 off these games that nobody even knows about anyways. Only reason anybody knows about these games is because they were on Humble Bundle. If he wants people to buy more games, that's in my opinion, he should make better games. I mean, how many people here have played those games?
Agree.
I have. Ultratron, anyway.
Oh, you play all the games. I've seen you when you're on Steam. You played every game on Steam. Or on Linux, at least.
And he goes on down further to say that, they've been supporting Linux for 11 years, and they're not about to stop. They're just remarking that it is incredibly unprofitable.
I don't know about that.
But I think, it has to go along with what Osiris is saying. I mean, you can't just expect to make all this money. You have to hit a certain niche or a certain. Your game obviously has to be enjoyable. You can't just develop a game and say, "Hey, this is for Linux and it costs $4.99. I want everybody to buy it."
What are you saying? That in the entertainment industry, it has to be entertaining? No way.
Right.
That's ludicrous.
Right. What a novel idea.
Come on, this guy. He just sounds like he's whining.
That's I hear you.
But to the bigger point though, this type of stuff doesn't help Linux gamers or Linux in general, which already has been pigeonholed into You're not gonna make any money there because it's free and open source, and they're gonna steal everything and this and that and that and this. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I heard someone mention a percent about Linux only makes up 1% of the gaming market. Is that what I heard?
It's about 1 to 2%. It fluctuates in between that.
I thought I had just seen the other day that Linux was making up actually 1.7%, but I believe that was of the OS marketplace.
Yes.
Before Linux used to be like down below 1%. It was like 0.8 or 0.9%. I remember years back, right?
Yeah.
If you compare it to OS X and Windows,
you can safely say that Linux, in general, and Linux gaming makes up 1 to 2% of the marketplace. Somewhere in between that.
Sure. Fair enough.
It fluctuates. It goes up and down.
Yeah.
But if I'm a developer and I'm developing a game and I made X amount of dollars on this game, then I'm saying, and then I say to myself, okay, I want to possibly port this over to Linux. As a intelligent individual, then I would say I can only expect this much money. I think what he did was he based it off Humble Bundle, because in Humble Bundle, traditionally and historically, Linux users have donated or bought or paid for more in comparison to the other OSs. So I don't know. I feel like he's either just whining or he had an unrealistic outlook of what was supposed to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this one comment from Nate Ward Dog. He says that from a blog post that EK, our boy, linked to on Puppy Games blog, they had made about 620 grand total as of mid 2013.
Oh Lord!
And they suspect that it hasn't gone up too much from that time. So if you have a projection of Linux's 1% market share, that should be around $6,200, right?
Yeah, right.
Yet they made 12 grand. So the 12K figure is only from Steam sales, only, and the 620,000 figure includes all sales. So that basically means that the tweet either is coming across as lack of research on their own data, or they have an unrealistic expectation. So I'm kind of going along with what Osiris is saying. Is this guy's kind of whining, and it might not even be justified whining.
Let's just start with this. Nobody cares about his games, and that's the problem. Like, how many of anybody who has even heard of these games? Like, if they weren't in Humble Bundles, I would never have heard of this game, and I would never even have cared. I'm not an indie game hater. Like, I appreciate some of the more artistic and creative indie games that are out there, but this game is just one of those games that is just meh. I'll take it because it came in a Humble Bundle for like $4. I don't like that's sweet, cool.
Yeah. Swoop made a comment, said 11 years and only 4 games. No, it's 11 years and only 4 Linux games is what it is, Swoop. So
What
they
other
have
games
developed.
they made?
I don't even know what else they made.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
nobody
just
knows.
going based on they made $620,000. I would think they have developed other games. Am I wrong? I don't know.
On their website, it's only showing the 4.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Here's then I guess I'm wrong. Okay.
As somebody who's like heavily into like music and music industry type stuff, entertainment industry in general is a hard industry. Nobody says just because you make it, somebody's gonna buy it. Like that. It just sounds like they're just mad. Like they probably poured their life savings into this. They quit their job, whatever, and they're mad about it. But the reason I brought this up, because the bigger problem is this is a black mark against Linux. Now we might be able to rationally look at this and say, hey, he's just whining. But other developers, like his co-developers, people in the industry, his peers, might look at this like, whoa, no, what's really going on here? This is not
Right.
not favorable for us.
This could potentially be bad, right? Exactly. If somebody with the not the right amount of research done and just takes this kind of comment, without any context or without any knowledge, yeah, that could make people not want to develop for Linux. So.
And that is and to me, that's the single biggest problem for potential Windows refugees is the lack of development of commercial software. And that's what we need. So we can't have this kind of stuff. Some people need to tweet this guy and say stop. Just stop it. Because Humble Bundle has proven that Linux users will pay for these games. And Steam has proven that Linux gamers will pay for these games. Like a lot of people went out and rebought the games that were Linux users just to make the Linux sales show up.
Right, exactly, yep. They might have been people that have already played the game through Windows, completed it, and then it came out for Linux, and they're like, well, shit, now it's on my OS of choice, I'm going to buy it again, just because, So. I mean, because that is a common misconception, I think, of all Linux gamers, just because of how Linux, kind of is all about free open source, free as in free. So, people automatically think, oh, well, the OS is free. Nobody's going to, pay for a game when it's in a free, free OS. But that's just not true. I mean, if we look at Steam, I thought it was gaming on Linux, they've been keeping a close eye on Steam sales, by OS as well. and the numbers just keep going up. You know, every month or however often he's checking the numbers, but the Steam sales is showing, you know, that Linux purchasing Linux games through Steam is on the rise.
That's true. And by the way, he is pulling those statistics directly from the Steam statistics, which you can also go look at yourself at any time through your Steam browser, your Steam game browser.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So the next topic, again, this is I believe posted by Osiris. So go ahead, take it away. Unless it was a comment. The Chivalry Facebook page.
Okay. Yes. So Chivalry is a pretty popular game, and it's older, yes, just like Mountain Blade Warband, but it is also getting ported. So like I said before in previous episodes, I still commend developers who take the time out of their day, because this, at the end of the day, this is a business and they're here to make money, to port their old games and bring them to Linux. And most of the time they've turned out to be pretty good ports, and they definitely put the effort into it. So I'm looking forward to seeing Chivalry, and I'm definitely going to pick it up, A, because they took the time out of their day and I want to reward them, and B, because it's a good game, and C, because my kids told me to.
Right. Yeah, and so Atomic and Osiris, again, I'm sharing, you know, the article link that you that we're talking about, and it's pretty cool. They show what looks to be a MacBook, maybe a Chromebook, I don't know, but it's running Chivalry, and next to it is Tux, which is the Linux mascot, and then down below the picture it says soon ... So that would lead us Linux users to assume that Chivalry is coming to Linux soon, which is really
it's a
cool.
MacBook.
So it's a MacBook.
No, not the MacBooks.
Yeah, you can tell. You look at the key next to the spacebar.
Get that Mac thing on it, whatever that's supposed to be.
It doesn't have the Windows key, right?
That weird Mac symbol.
So I've never played Chivalry. I've seen a couple. I think it kind of exploded on YouTube a little bit for a while. Like some of the bigger names, like Hutch and C-Nanners, you know, and they were. I guess you could just go around and chop each other's heads off or some shit. I've never played it. Have you guys?
It's a niche game.
No.
It's a niche game. It's one of those games that has a die-hard fan following, like Chivalry. I mean like Mountain Blade also. It's fun. My kids like it. I haven't played it personally, but I like. It's similar to Mountain Blade, and I like that also. So it's a old school, not old school, but medieval type of war game, first-person type of war game, you could say.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check Chivalry out sometime. Once it's ported to Linux.
And it works. We got to see that too.
I guess
we've had
that's
too many loose promises.
Right. All right. Well, moving down the line here, finally a topic that I had posted, and it's talking about Linux. Intel publishes the initial Skylake Linux graphics support. And for those of you that are not familiar with the terminology, Skylake isn't even arriving until the second half of 2015 as the successor to Broadwell. And Broadwell isn't even really... Is Broadwell out yet?
Nope.
No.
I mean, right now we have Haswell and Haswell E.
Yes.
Is the X99 chip the 5960X? Is that considered a Broadwell chip?
That's a Haswell E chip. That's a rehash of the Haswell chip, basically.
So it's not a Broadwell chip.
No.
Okay. All right. So
and Devil's Canyon
Intel is already. I'm sorry. What?
And Devil's Canyon is next. Or it's already out.
Holy shit.
It's already out, right? There's just so much crap, man.
Wait, yeah, Atomic, now you're confusing me. You just said the 5960X is Broadwell, but isn't it Devil's Canyon?
No. It's Haswell.
What the fuck?
Okay, listen. The
Yeah, we
4770.
need to get this clear for our viewers here, since
Yeah.
we're the ones doing the damn podcast.
Yeah, I've got it clear. The 4770K and your 4670K. That's what you have, right?
I have a 4670K Haswell, yes.
That is Haswell. Devil's Canyon, which is what I'm running, is just a chipset refresh of Haswell. And it's in the same socket. Theoretically, you could take a Devil's Canyon chip and put it in a Haswell board, a Z87. But I think that's unsupported, mostly.
Oh, actually, I just was looking into this. Remember, some of the motherboard manufacturers are attempting to provide a BIOS update because the socket is the same. It's an 1150 socket, so they are attempting to provide Devil's Canyon support in the Z87 chipset. Z87 was the first chipset that supported the new Haswell chips, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
Then they came out with Z97, which supported the 4770K, right?
I don't know. I think it should, but I'm not certain of that.
What was the question?
Haswell chips in the Z97 chipset.
1150, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying there's Z87, then there's Z97, and that's what we were kind of talking about over Twitter a couple days ago, was since I have a Z87 motherboard, would it be worth trying to put a 4790 or trying to put a newer Devil's Canyon chip inside the Z87? And some motherboard manufacturers are providing a BIOS update that does allow it to work.
Yeah.
But it's not a for sure. Yeah, it's not guaranteed.
Here's the thing: Intel sets the standard, I guess you could call it, and Intel did not set that standard. So, but because they are somewhat and semi-compatible in theory, the motherboards can create those BIOS updates. The motherboard manufacturers can create those BIOS updates to make them compatible. But what I think Intel wants to do, well, I don't think Intel cares what the motherboards do. I think Intel just puts shit out and then lets them handle it. Because if you notice, Intel doesn't even make motherboards no more, so they're not concerned with that area. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. I would personally just stick with your generation. If you have this generation processor, stay with this generation motherboard, because the difference in between generations in CPUs from Intel is 8% by statistics and mathematically on benchmarks, which in real life means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. So if you render a video that's 10 minutes long, on the next chipset, it might be 9 minutes and 56 seconds. Who cares? It's not that important. That's why I want to really see like reviewers on hardware do real life reviews, because benchmarks, I think, confuse people.
Yeah, I would agree. Yep.
Well, getting on to the rest of the thing, the way that I understand Broadwell is that it's a mobile and low power chipset only. Like, there's not going to be any desktop version of Broadwell.
What?
Really?
The CPU market is very stagnant, I've noticed. I'm on what is it, Ivy Bridge, 3570K.
Yeah,
there is absolutely zero reason for me to buy any, and I want to buy a new processor, and there's no reason for me to even to buy one. Like, I really want a new processor. but I can't find any processor to upgrade to.
You
Obviously,
just want a new processor because your heat spreader won't get shiny anymore.
Well, and then the other major difference between Haswell and Broadwell will be that Broadwell will actually, the die is going to shrink down to 14 nanometers, whereas
really?
Haswell is 22.
Eh,
So maybe it kind of goes along with what Atomic was just saying, that they're going to be only mobile and, what'd you say, tablet? Or just
that would make
smaller,
sense. I think Intel.
non-desktop, because if it's only 14, the die is only 14, that's tiny, you know?
That would make sense because I
That's
think
almost
Intel.
half. That's almost half the size of Haswell.
I think Intel is sweating on the APU side, the mobile market side. You have the cell phone market with the ARM processors really digging into them, and then you have the larger form factor mobile market and AMD in their APUs really dominating actually. Like the HD Intel series stuff cannot compete with AMD's APUs right now. It's just not. It's not close. And you played Titanfall with an HD what 4000, and it turned out pretty well.
46 HD 4600.
And it turned out pretty
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah,
Just
I was
imagine if
getting I was getting very reasonable frames. Yep.
and the AMD APU outperforms that. So you can pretty much have a gaming computer with no discrete graphics card at this point. If you're not one of those, I need 100 frames per second with super ultra anti-aliasing at 1440p type of people,
Right.
which is kind of cool. I like to see that type of progression because that means us guys who pay the extra money are still getting better stuff.
And the last part of it is the Sandy Bridge E, Ivy Bridge E, and Haswell E. Those all just occupy a completely different market.
Yes, those are not for us people. It's for those people.
It's for those people that just have money that are burning holes in their pockets, basically.
That is for the have-mores.
The have mores. That's a good one. I'm gonna use that. The have mores.
So apparently, from what I'm reading, the 4690K and the i7 4790K, they're codenamed Devil's Canyon, but they're still considered a Haswell chip.
Technically, yes.
So I'm not sure. Haswell must be the high-end name, and then you have code names. Like Haswell Refresh is what those ones that came out just prior to these latest Devil's Canyon chips.
No, the Haswell Refresh is Devil's Canyon. Haswell E is Haswell E. It's not Devil's Canyon.
All right, you lost me. I'm totally lost, man.
You need a little grease for the gears there.
Here, think about it this way, Ubu. So Intel comes out with a chip, then they refresh that chip, and then they go back 2 generations ago and then create an extreme series called the E series. That's how it pretty much works out. Because there's no reason for them to innovate, because A, there's no competition, and because there's no competition, their E series doesn't need to be innovative in no form or fashion, because all it is the same architecture from 2 years ago, but from the Xeon series. They remarked the Xeon series and then unlocked that chip so that it can be overclocked, you could say. So they're double dipping. I'm gonna call it that. They're double dipping. They're making a lot of money, and nobody can compete with that. Not AMD. And the biggest thing is that Intel owns the manufacturing process for their chips. AMD does not own that manufacturing process, which is right there just alone is a huge difference in between their profit margins. Like
I'm reading one of the the big improvements that was made with the Haswell refreshes is the improved thermal interface material, the TIM.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I've seen that.
no. That's hype. That's Intel hype boat, and it has been, I think, pretty much proven. Maybe Atomic can correct me, that it was actually completely opposite. It was not improved and worse to a point.
Well, they actually increased the TDP is one thing. It went from 84 watts to 88 watts, according to what I'm reading.
Well, that's kind of meaningless.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But the TIM is like that. That's basically the thermal paste that's like in between the lid and the processor, I think, right? And it sucks.
Yeah.
And it pretty much sucks, and it's always sucked for the last 3 years.
I heard that. Okay, well, what I'm reading is that it sucked for the original Haswells, and it doesn't suck for the Haswell refreshes. That they changed. They have a new and improved thermal interface material called Next Generation Polymer Thermal Interface Material. But you're saying that's just marketing jargon?
Yeah, that's what Intel said. Now, if you're gonna read the forums, there are people are like, "What the WTF? What the hell is this? What the?"
I mean, I'm sure there's people that have actually taken the lid off their CPU, right, and to redo it. What's that called again?
Delidding.
Or delidding. Okay.
They don't redo it. I think what they do is they delid it and they leave it like that, and then they place their heat, their cooling on top of that. Am I right?
That's what I had planned on doing, but I'm looking at it, and the heat spreader actually has points where the clamp will hold down the chip. So I don't know if it would hold it down as tightly without having the heat spreader on there.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna admit that I'm too big of a wussy to start taking apart CPUs. I don't think I'll do that. Sounds cool.
Yeah, it is. Right.
Until it doesn't work again. Then I'm done.
Now, as far as my testing has gone, I really like dealing with CPUs in Linux because I can actually scale it anywhere I want to and lock it there. If I want to put it down to 800 megahertz, I can put it down to 800 megahertz.
Wait. You like to do what?
I can control the CPU scaling, and I can, you know that the clock frequency actually drops when the CPU is idle.
Yeah.
I can turn it down to the lowest. Yeah, I can turn it down to the lowest step it'll go to, which is 800 megahertz, and then I can lock it there no matter how much load there is on the CPU.
You have to tell me why you want to do that, though.
Testing.
Oh, okay.
Plus, for whatever reason, on Arch right now, even when the thing's idle, it's not clocking down. So I get slightly lower power consumption if I force it down.
Gotcha. Yeah, like my thing with the CPUs right now is, and the GPUs, is that there's very little innovation because they've hit a point where that now every little step is costing them more and more. But they can't pass that cost to us because we're not paying for that. So there's nothing really new coming out. You guys are about my age, so you remember the time when AMD and Intel raced to 1 gigahertz, raced to 2 gigahertz, raced to quad-core processors. Now we're just like, okay, there's just no reason. Even if you have an old 2500, even if you have a i7 970, there's not even really a reason to upgrade. The only you can almost go as far back to the phenoms and still argue that there's not a point to upgrade from that, because the new AMD chips are not much better than the phenoms. So, well, it's just one of those things. Like, if you upgrade, that's just because you love hardware and you want to brag about it. That's it.
Really? Come on now. You don't think that... Okay, what do you have? You have an Ivy Bridge. Which CPU?
i5. And there's no reason for me to upgrade
I know.
from that.
i5 what?
3570K.
3570K.
Only a generation.
No, mine's 4670K.
One
so
generation
what we
earlier.
should do is we should take Farinix has an awesome benchmarking suite, and we should pick out like 3 of their main CPU benchmarks out of the Farinix testing suite and run them both on our rigs and talk about them next Wednesday on the podcast.
You know what? I'll take that challenge. Only if we also add in, because I don't believe in benchmarks, because I believe benchmarks are deceptive to laymen's and normal people.
No, but I mean, I understand that the numbers that come out of them don't mean shit, but the point will be that the numbers will be able to be compared against each other.
But
that's the point of it.
To put it in perspective, I think that we should also take games or a decompression software or a rendering software and see what the actual difference is for the people who actually use that, so that you can put all that information, that data together, and make it usable.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I guess what I'm trying to point out is that in Farinix's test suite, they have all that stuff already in the suite. They have compression tests, they have encoding tests, all that. It's awesome. The Farinix test suite is, that's the reason that they came up with this test suite, was so that, you know, the benchmark, there's so much there's so many different things the benchmark suite can do. It can do hard drive speed tests, hard drive read tests, memory testing, CPU compression testing, CPU encoding. It can do graphical benchmarks, all that.
I'm not familiar with all the tests Farinix has in it. I don't use that. So that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that there was a normal real world use test inside of that also.
Well, we could also, what we could do also is I can upload some raw HD captured footage into my Dropbox. You can download that same raw footage. We'll each apply the same, effects in the. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll create a Kdenlive project and zip up the entire folder, and then you can open up that same Kdenlive project on your rig, and then we'll each render it to the same profile and compare the times that it took to render.
Yes, sir. Challenge accepted. We will do that.
Okay. Cool. All right.
We will do that.
How much was when your 3770K or 3670K came out, whatever one you're running? Mm-hmm. How much was it when you purchased it?
$225, just like they all are, and it's still $225. You know what's so stupid about it?
Is it really? It still hasn't gone down?
No, this is still the stupid thing, and this is another reason why there's not a reason to upgrade. Like, when I say there's not a reason to upgrade, it's because of performance and because of cost. The 3770K is still $329. Guess how much the latest i7 still is? $329.
What?
Wow.
You know what?
I don't get that either. You're right.
Because Intel. Because Intel, that's why.
But aren't you getting newer capabilities in the motherboard, aren't you?
No. Yeah. What newer capabilities?
You did with Devil's Canyon.
More PCI lanes.
Yeah, but stuff that I'll never use.
More bandwidth through the lanes.
That's like Jay's 2 cents type of more capability. I'll never use that. I don't have 4 graphics cards or 3 graphics cards. I don't have I don't need 3 PCI. I barely need 1 PCI lane. You know what I'm saying? This is stuff I don't need. That's why I say. Go ahead.
I think if you have 16 lanes, which if you have 1 PCI slot, you have 16 lanes, that would actually be enough for 4 graphics cards.
Yes, you're right, because graphics cards have a terrible scaling on top of that, and you wouldn't need all of that. Let me explain something that maybe some people don't understand. Lanes on a motherboard is not locked into a specific slot. So when somebody says you have a number of lanes on a motherboard, that can be spread across the amount of PCI slots that you actually have. A lot of people might not know that, and I'm pretty sure they know that.
Okay, that's great information, but also, isn't that same bandwidth lane used by other controllers on the board, like USB and SATA? They all share that same bandwidth lane. Isn't that true?
What happens is most times the SATA up to SATA 3 6 gigabit per second is run through the chipset. The chipset gets a few lanes to the CPU. USB 3 on some motherboards, but not all of them, have direct PCIe lanes. SATA Express and M-SATA, I believe, have dedicated lanes.
Yes, M.2 say that, and that's why when the Z99 came out, they said there was a decrease in the amount of lanes. People were kind of up in arms about it because there was also an addition of M.2 SATA to that board. But let's be honest, us normal people, don't have the need for that amount of lanes still on the motherboard. Matter of fact, PCI 3 is not needed. USB 3 is still not needed. Yes, there's an increase, but I think there's an increase because the bottom line.
I would say USB 3 is needed, especially with HD graphic capturing.
I don't do the HD graphic. I mean,
It
maybe
depends
for that.
it depends on whether you've got on-chip compression, because if you've got a chip like you have in your NVIDIA graphics card that does H.264 encoding, the bandwidth is nil.
Right. No, I'm talking about, like, for example, Black Magics or those devices that actually require Thunderbolt or USB 3, where all that bandwidth is being utilized.
Okay, yeah, but those are uncompressed.
No, and also, another mistake a lot of people do is they'll just plug something in the back of their computer. What people don't understand about plugging things in the back of your computer is that each set of USB devices is on a specific controller. So you might have 2 or 3 controllers.
Exactly.
You can't plug 2 webcams or 2 capture devices next to each other and expect them to work. But what if you plug one in the front and one in the back? They might work perfectly fine.
Because they're on separate controllers, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
So I still stand by the fact that a lot of the technology that we use today is for bragging rights and because we can. We haven't even utilized
high end users.
Super high end. Like I'm still not convinced. Even X99 stuff. Like I don't think they're maxing out that type of stuff yet. I know they're not maxing out that type of stuff yet. I don't think we're maxing out the type of stuff we own yet. I think it's just poorly optimized for the software that we're using.
Yeah, I would agree there. Right.
So, like, I don't want to see more innovation in hardware. Well, yes, I do. But I'd rather see more innovation in software.
To utilize the hardware we have, right? Exactly.
Now, if they started making,
I would totally agree with you there. Like, for example, for us Linux users that use Kdenlive, right now their preview playing back your HD content, it's only utilizing 1 core of my quad-core CPU.
Really?
So, yeah, their playback only uses 1 core. So that's the reason they came up with the proxy clips. So if you have 40 megabit data rate video file, that's like HD captured 1920 by 1080 footage, and you try to put that into Kdenlive and play it back on, say, one of our systems, it's going to be stuttering and it's not going to be playing back correctly because we just don't have because Kdenlive, for one, only uses 1 core to play that back.
Oh my goodness.
So that's the reason. Like, I agree with you. The software needs to catch up with its capabilities so that it's actually utilizing the hardware that we do have.
Now, I know that it's single-threaded, but I'm not experiencing that stutter now.
Yes,
I was experiencing.
Go ahead.
I was experiencing that stutter on my laptop, which only had a 2.1 gigahertz processor. And
I get that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I get that same stutter on 3570K. Just wanted to put that in there. Go ahead.
And that's why software like Kdenlive, even Sony Vegas, they came up with proxy clips where you're working with degraded videos that have been encoded to a lower bit rate just while you work with it in your timeline, so that you can play it back easily, trim it, and do all the stuff you need to do. And then once it comes time to do the final render, it'll utilize the real raw HD raw video and do what you need it to do by adding the transitions, the cuts, and everything. And then the final product will be again your whatever bit rate you chose to encode it to, a higher bit rate HD.
I don't know if we have time for this, but that would lead to another discussion that popped in my mind. For something of the magnitude of video editing, music editing, and certain other things that requires like really corporate backing, even 3D like Blender would not have survived without corporate backing. They've accepted a lot of money from corporate backers. Do we need, does Linux need, like, is a necessity for Linux to get corporate software or corporate backed software? We have corporate backed OSs like Red Hat, but do we need corporate backed software? Because KDN Live, as good as it is, it's not a professional video editor.
Right. There are corporate backed software available for Linux now. I'm pretty sure. If you go to the Ubuntu Software Center and look for software that actually costs money, isn't that corporate backed software?
No.
No. What I'm saying is, like, Blender. Blender has been backed by like some of the biggest names. Like Unreal Engine has backed Blender. Like super big Sony, I think, has backed Blender.
Okay.
So Blender is successful because it receives the money because these corporations, for some reason, believe in it one way or another. I don't know why.
Okay.
But Kaden, like, if I was a professional videographer or I did videos for whatever reason, I don't know that I would rely on KDN Live as my go-to video editor, because actually there's nothing on Linux that I would rely on as my go-to video editor. To be honest with you, there's just nothing that's as feature-rich as some of the even lower-end Windows video editors that are out there. And stable. That's the main point. Stable. Because I've seen KDN Live. Like, it doesn't just crash on me. It only crashes on very specific things. Very, very, like, you did this, and then you did that, now it's crashed. I can make it crash like every time, which is funny. Because if I can do it, somebody else can do it.
Right, yeah. I mean, if you're doing a certain transition with a certain video effect and it's crashing it, those are the kinds, sadly to say, but those are the types of situations where you really need to file a bug so that, the software...
The bugs are already there, though. That's the problem.
Get fixed. No, file a bug report so they can do the research and find out why, it's crashing.
No, I'm saying the bug report, like, it's already been posted. It's
there. Okay, gotcha.
And it's not even
aware of it.
It's years old. That's the issue.
Oh, okay. All right. But kind of going full circle back around to this Intel publishing initial Skylake Linux graphics support, I did just want to kind of mention a little bit in this article about some of the improvements, that are expected to see with the Skylake graphics that are basically Intel Gen 9 graphics. They're going to be doing away with the VGA connector, finally. So that's going to be gone. They are also... Skylake is also expected to boost support for DDR4 memory, PCI Express 4.0, Thunderbolt 3.0, and SATA Express. And Skylake also comes with new instruction set extensions for MPX, which is memory protection, ADX, which is multi-precision add carry, and SHA hashing algorithms. So, I mean, it's good to see Intel already getting the work started and out in the public for mainline integration into the Linux kernel, prior to the hardware even remotely even close to when the hardware is going to be released. I mean, it's not coming until the second half of 2015, and to see this grade of support for the Intel, from Intel for Linux is awesome. I mean, that's great in my opinion.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Intel has been a great contributor to the open source, and so is NVIDIA as of late. I definitely applaud them for that. Makes me wonder what their ulterior motive is, though.
Yeah, probably something's coming out with Linux on it.
Yeah,
Some
I
device.
would agree. Something like Android, some type of watch, some type of something. You never know with these type of companies.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that it's happening. Now, I don't know if you want to talk about this real quick. How many articles we got left?
Just the one on.
NVIDIA Linux binaries.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that real quick, Ubu? Who posted that?
Wasn't me. I think
I
that's
did.
probably Ubu.
I posted it. Let me unshare this here. Stop sharing. Yeah, the last topic was just to let our viewers know that that NVIDIA did come out with a new binary blob on their website. If you go to nvidia.com, well, here, I'll just open the link in a new tab and then go to share the screen again. I can just show everybody the drivers here for NVIDIA. Now, I know Osiris, you're one of those people that usually just install the NVIDIA driver from the Ubuntu repositories. Is that a fair statement?
As of late, yes. Yep.
Okay.
When it went, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
When I first had him, when I first bought the 660, it was better for me to get the latest NVIDIA drivers. Then it was better for me to get the bleeding edge one from the what is that called? Edgers, the Edgers PPA.
Yep. Edgers, Xorg, yep, Xorg
Yeah.
Edgers.
So that's where I was getting it from. But honestly, now the Ubuntu provided drivers have been excellent, and I don't feel a need for any more. So.
Okay. I myself, I always use the binary blobs from NVIDIA's website, and so I just wanted to let my viewers know, that as of August 12th, 2014, it is coming up on almost a month ago, but still, version 340.32 has been released, and most notably, they added a bunch of support for some professional grade cards like the Quadro K series cards. They added that support in there, and they fixed some regressions that occurred. They fixed some video corruption issues for VDPAU decoding of VC1 and WMV video streams, remapping on Maxwell GPUs like the 750 Ti. They fixed a black window bug in Ubuntu 14.04 when using the Xcinerama and composite extensions. They fixed a bug caused screen contents to be shifted downward when a G-Sync monitor was unplugged and replaced by a non-G-Sync monitor. It looks like they fixed some other G-Sync stuff. So they fixed a memory leak as well when starting OpenGL applications. So these latest NVIDIA Linux drivers I think that they provide much more up-to-date support than what Ubuntu's drivers provide, and that's just my opinion. So I'm actually running still one behind this, I believe. I'm running, if I open up the NVIDIA Control Center, I'm running 340.24, and 340.32 is out there. So for those of you that are running, a recent NVIDIA card, I do suggest that you take a look at NVIDIA's website and using one of their latest NVIDIA drivers. That's just my 2 cents there. So that's pretty much all I wanted to share was that updated driver there.
Yep. I mean, for the most part, though, even if you go with bleeding edge you go with super safe Ubuntu, or you go with whatever NVIDIA provides. I have to say that NVIDIA, for the most part, has provided very stable drivers across the board, and there's not much to complain about on their end, really, to be honest. The amount of work they put in has been commendable.
Right. I would agree. Yeah.
I mean, but if we have a second, do you want to talk about what we talked about yesterday? If we have a second,
Yeah, we have. Sure, we have a second, or we have some time.
So Linus Torvalds, obviously the creator of Linux, is under the impression that there should not be any type of unification of Linux. And I think he said that a few years ago. But me personally, I have to disagree with this. And I have to disagree with this because I'm not a Linux user because it's Linux. I'm a Linux user because of the principle. But I'm a computer user first, and I'm also an IT person way before that because it makes me money. And as a person who uses tools, I need my tools to work. I would like to see a single Linux distro that is the cookie cutter template for developers to I guess program towards, to develop towards, for hardware makers to create towards. That way there is no excuse. I don't want to hear about Mirror. I don't want to hear about Pulse. I don't want to hear about also doesn't work and it has this bug and this thing and this other thing. I want them all to create towards one thing, and then if I add Pulse and if I add Phonon and if I add all this other stuff on top of it, then it's my fault. But when you know what I'm saying. So when I run Cinnamon, I get this issue. Then when I run Unity, I get this issue. Then when I run Arch, I get this issue. I'm like, oh my God, I'm tired of the issue. I just want them to stop for 1 second so I can get this one thing done. That's what I'm saying. And then kind of like a Lego type of effect. So give me this much of goodness, and then whatever I put on top of that, I can blame myself. That's my outlook on it. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I would really like to see some type of unification. And I don't want to see a Mirror and then this and that, then System D, and then whatever Ubuntu wants to do. I don't want to see ALSA and Phonon. What is it called? Photon?
No, Pulse Audio.
Pulse Audio.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Phonon though? I know there's a Phonon. Something.
I don't know what that is. Phonon.
I thought Phonon was like a set of media codecs.
It might be. I don't know. Yeah. There is a Phonon. I just don't know. It has something to do with audio. But I just know when things break, I get these random error codes that say this, that, and that, and this, and I'm like, oh my God, really? And then FFmpeg, because you do live streaming, so there's FFmpeg, and what's the other one?
AVComp.
Yeah. So like there's a disparity.
Forks occur. I mean, I think it's a blessing and a curse in the Linux environment. Yes. You know, the whole purpose of Linux or Linus Torvalds' original idea was to create, an environment that was free for a person to do whatever they wanted to do to their system, right? I think that was what his original goal was. He didn't want to be tied down to have to go and get this floppy disk and install this particular program so that he could do, this, and then he'd have to go and buy this other floppy disk, or because back then that's what they were. Go and buy this program to do that. He wanted an open environment so that people could code and create software together without, all the bureaucracy and corporations and, like restrictions that MS comes with and that Apple comes with. So it's a blessing and a curse, because you do have that openness in Linux. We all have a choice to, we all could use Arch Linux and actually build our entire Linux operating system starting with the actual kernel compilation of the kernel enabling and disabling certain modules, allowing certain support within the, you know.
I think you might be confusing Arch with Gentoo.
Okay, so maybe I'm getting it mixed up. Yeah, whatever Linux distribution that's out there where you pretty much have to build every single thing, starting with the kernel, you know, and then you just keep building up from there what you want in your operating system. Maybe that is Gentoo, you know. But
here's the thing now. Here's the most important thing.
I think that's why Ubuntu came along. They tried to create, you know, a user-friendly environment that fit everyone's needs.
Exactly.
And for the most part, I think for the most part they've accomplished that.
They have.
Ubuntu is one of the top, you know, Linux desktop distributions out there as a choice.
Number one.
Okay, right. Yeah, it's the top Linux distribution to use. Now, other people have come along and taken the Ubuntu base, you know, and made what you said you used, Mate? No, not
Mate
Mint.
and Cinnamon.
No, Mint. Mint. So there's, you know, Mint, which uses a different desktop, like it uses either Cinnamon or Mate, you know, desktop manager instead of Unity, like what Ubuntu uses. I mean, so these people, they're making forks of the original Ubuntu to do what they want it to do, and that is, I think it's a double-edged sword. So I mean, I see your argument for sure.
Okay, so I'm not saying that I want to take any power away from the derivatives, the spin-offs, and the extras out there. I definitely do not want to do that. What I want is, there has been an issue with certain things in Linux for a very long time that has been very well-known issues. The audio system is a known issue. It has problems. It's archaic, it's old, and it's broken. Now they're trying to move on to the Xorg. It's the most archaic of archaic things, I think, in modern desktops.
Yeah.
And now they want to move over to Mir and Wayland. Now we got these two sides fighting between Mir. I don't really like. Okay, I'm an IT person, but when I come home and sit at my desk, I don't care about Mir or Wayland. I want to log in, play a game, and log off. That's it. I don't care about the extra stuff.
Sure.
So I think the average user will not care about the extra stuff. They don't want to know what's behind the scenes. They just want behind the scenes to work. So what I'm saying is, I just want them to have a foundation that is universal and unified to work out the box. That includes the sound system, the graphical system, the video system, the everything that is pretty much needed for a developer to go towards, especially a game developer, which is the most system intense and resource using type of software there is, probably, besides like super high-end content making. That's all I want to see.
I see what you're getting at, definitely. Yeah.
And then, like, I'm not even saying that's a rule. That's just they're just gonna put that out there as, okay, this is what works. Now, if you deviate from that, fine, that's your problem. There's Linux, you can do what you want. But then you can't come back and complain and say, hey, it doesn't work. You fix it yourself. That's what I want to get on board with. I just wanted it to be a single working thing, and then be done with it. And anything else, I can blame myself. Because I just okay, I played the games, and then this thing don't work. And like it's just random stuff. What works in Ubuntu won't work in Cinnamon. What works in Cinnamon won't work in Arch. What works in Arch won't work in KDE. I'm like, really? Like, I don't even understand this stuff. I'm not even interested in fixing it at certain points anymore. I just want it to work.
I just want it to work. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you're speaking for probably 90% of the, you know, Linux user base. You know, maybe a little less, but
yeah.
I totally agree. They want their system to just work.
Yeah, exactly. It's just super, and especially now that I have this AMD card, I don't know how much I can contribute or attribute to having an AMD card, but there's not. There's just. It's not something that's just like everything crashes. It's just this one little thing. Like it just halts all my work. My whole workflow just stops because of this one little thing. I'm like, oh my God, come on, seriously. Now, to be fair, this is how I fix everything in Windows. Let me tell you how I fix things in Windows. I reboot. I reboot it, and then it just fucking
reformat and reinstall, right?
Or you just I am a pro at reformatting and reinstalling Windows computers. It is so. Hey, look, when somebody brings me a computer with a virus on it, you know what I do? I'm like, shh, it's got a virus on it, and we're gonna reformat it and reinstall it. I don't try to fix that crap. Hell no. Nobody has time for that.
Right.
I just want to see Linux get there. Oh, and then another thing. One more thing I got to grab about.
All right.
One more thing. When something breaks in Linux, why does it leave you with an unusable desktop? Cinnamon crashed on me. There's nothing I could do except for Control Alt F1 and get to the TTYL command.
Right. To the terminal console. Yeah.
Most people will not know what to do from that point. All I do is sudo reboot and hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, I just reinstall. I just don't have the want to fix all these things anymore. I used to do that when I was younger.
Yeah, I totally agree with that fact about the graphics drivers. And if you do something with a graphics driver installation that something didn't work right, and now, like you said, you're just left with a frickin' a black screen with a blinking cursor, or you can't get to a desktop, like you said, or you can only get to the recovery kernel option that doesn't allow you to, or that's all command line based. And to the average user, yeah, Windows users don't experience that. If their graphics driver install goes wrong or something, a screen comes up and says, hey, is this what you want? And it gives you like 15 seconds. It says, this is what you want, click OK, and we'll proceed. And if it's not what you want, you just don't touch it, and it's going to revert back to what it was, back to a workable desktop, and you can choose to do a different route. Why can't Linux do that? I totally feel you. They don't have a very stable fallback system or whatever, fallback Xorg, whatever. And like you said, Xorg, I've only read like horrible things about Xorg, which is for those of you that aren't familiar, Xorg is basically the system that draws, it's what all of your graphical user interface sits on top of, to show you your picture, your GUIs, and your clickable stuff. So that's basically the base, for everything. And I've only read bad articles about how Xorg is so archaic, and that when they've, as through the years, instead of really fixing like root causes within Xorg, they've just made additional extensions.
Yes.
They've put Band-Aids on it, and now it's to the point where it's so messed up that now people are starting to want to ditch Xorg and come up with a totally different video system, like Osiris mentioned, either Wayland or Mur. So. Oh, we have a new guest. Hi.
This is Osiris Jr., the PC Pimp Jr.
All right, we got Osiris Jr. and PC Pimp Jr.
Yeah, that is exactly. I've been using Linux since the late 1990s. The same stuff has been around since the late 1990s. I started on Red Hat and Mandriva, which turned into Mandrake, which turned into Mandriva, and the same problems and the same. Here's the frustrating part. The same bugs exist from 10 years ago. Some of the same bugs are still there.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. And then if you want to if you're the most intense thing that you can do as an average user. Hold on. You gotta go. The most intense thing you can do as an average user is play a video game, because that's gonna tax most of your system. And if one thing doesn't work, it's gonna really show at that point. Right? Or it's just going to crash.
Yeah.
When you say, I want to leisurely sit down play a video game, and not worry about nothing else in the world, that's the last thing you want to worry about is this stuff in the world. And
Yeah.
I find it frustrating. And the reason I bring this up is because I've been doing comparisons between Windows and Linux on my R9 290X and the AMD Catalyst drivers. And let me tell you, what a freaking, like, I can't even make explicitives big enough to explain the headaches that I've been having. Everything just broke.
Frustrations, yeah.
Just broke on me. Which to be fair, I did not have on my 660. No problems on that end, except for when I first installed the drivers like a year ago or so.
Yeah, I mean, Osiris and I were talking last night as he was trying to play Metro Last Light with his 290X, which should just pretty much chew through that game, you know,
Exactly.
in Linux, and he was getting mid 60s for frames per second, you know, 70 said max. And when we went and looked at some comparative Windows benchmarks, you know, they were, what was it, high 70s?
The most
Windows
70,
or
somewhere between 60 and 65, and which annoyed me the most is when you told me you was getting like 60. I was like, what?
I was getting 50 to 55 on a 760 with
Even
NVIDIA drivers. I mean, so right away we already know the disparity of the damn Linux AMD drivers for sure. I'd be interested. I'm hoping you include the open source driver in your benchmark, because I've heard only great things that the latest Radeon SI driver from OABOF's PPA and the latest Mesa Git, you know, and the newer kernel, the open source AMD driver is almost on par with the Catalyst driver. So
Really?
you know, if you don't include it, in this benchmark you're doing now or video you're doing now, I hope you do in the future, because you know, if I still have my AMD system and I haven't run any benchmarks on it because it's really just a server that runs my Minecraft server and my DVR software and all that other stuff, so I don't use it for gaming. But I'm almost tempted to, you know, install the latest open source AMD driver and fire up Metro Last Light and see what I'm getting now. Oh no, this one only has an APU in it. Whatever APU is in the A8 3870K from AMD, it doesn't have the HD 7770 in it anymore. I took that out. It's sitting on the
Have
shelf.
the space.
Right, I didn't have a PCI or the slot for it.
Well, here's the thing. Here's my because I like to think of myself as a champion of the average user. Because when I do things and then when I explain things, I try to explain it to the average user as if I was the average user and I don't know anything else more than I know. And
Sure. Yeah.
if I go out and I buy a 290 or 290X, which is AMD's flagship model card, $400 plus dollars regardless, I expect a certain level of performance.
For sure.
Yeah. And they just can't guarantee you that level of performance on Linux. It's just not possible. On Windows, I cranked everything up on that same game, Metro Last Light, with more options than Linux has, because they're using DirectX 11 and OpenGL 3 point whatever they use on the version of Metro Last Light that we have does not compare to DirectX 11. But Redux does, which uses OpenGL 4 point something.
Oh, okay. So once they come out with Metro Last Light Redo or Redux, whatever, it's gonna be using the latest OpenGL.
Yes. Not the latest. I don't know. 4 point something.
Well, 4 point something. Okay.
Yes.
Not 3.2 or 3. Yeah, not the older one. Right. Okay.
So
sure.
Like I get 70 something frames per second on Windows, but it's gorgeous. Like I'm talking about, like I stop playing the game, I have to push the chair back. I'm like, wow, that's gorgeous. Yeah. Right. But when I do the same thing on Linux, crank that little whatever kind of slider that is, the graphical slider.
Right.
And then I look at the game, I'm like, it's okay. But then it stops drawing shaders, and then it stops drawing lights, and then it stops doing this, and then eventually the game just crashes on me. I'm like, oh my.
That's a shame, because Metro Last Light's been out for a while.
Yeah.
You know, you would think that AMD would be putting special attention into getting that game running good on their Catalyst driver. You would think that because that is a AAA title on SteamOS, and if they want their AMD name to get out there in these SteamOS boxes, what the heck? These gamers are going to want a AAA game, and Metro Last Light is one of them. And if they can't even get that game working right, I don't see these Steam boxes being much success. That's all I can say. If they don't get these drivers, better, by the time the Steam boxes drop, man, people are going to be really pissed.
I'm a super old school AMD fanatic because they provided hardware for us enthusiasts to use that was affordable for a very long time. Since the Athlon and since the Sempron, man, like all the way back. But like what you say, you're completely correct. Even to the point where the manufacturers of Steam boxes and even Valve has not even mentioned AMD, which is a complete shame. Because when you talk about the principles and the ideology of what open source is, AMD is a champion of open source stuff. They have provided just as much open source technology as anybody else on the planet. And I would like to see them, like, I don't even know, like, I can't expect them to open source their drivers because I'm sure there's stuff in those in that code that is what keeps them ahead, we'll say, as far as a business goes. But they have to work something out. Like, this is super, like Witcher 2. I haven't really tried it, but from everything I've read, compared to NVIDIA, it's damn near unplayable. And that game is, like, I don't know how old that game is. 2010?
Right, it's definitely an older game. Yeah. Well, I want to wrap up this week's podcast. We are, a little bit over than what we normally like to go. Like to go a little bit, an hour and 15 minutes. So we're at about an hour and a half. So I just want to thank everybody that came out to the show today. Looks like we had around 6 people watching now, 7 people watching now. I'm actually one of them, so I think Osiris has it open too.
Yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate everybody that came out to the show, and we didn't really take any questions from Twitter, unfortunately, or take any questions from any comments, but we will do that in the future. And if you have any inclination to check out Osiris's or Atomic's YouTube and Twitter, please check the description down below in the video. And that's about all we got for this week. You guys want to say your signing off, whatever? Your goodbyes?
Yeah, goodbye.
All right, Atomic?
Yeah, that's ditto.
Peace out, Audi 4000.
All right, guys,
Take
care.
Leave.
Level 9000.